We're trying to load something into place for you.
I got the wrong disc, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. Oh, during my lecture, it's probably best to just be on camera because what goes on the picture is fine. All right. I wanted you to know is dedicated to Frank Nelson. Anybody know who Frank Nelson is? I'll bet nobody knows who Frank Nelson is.
I faces in here, I know they know who he is. Didn't they know whose name?
They're going to know in a minute. All right. Anybody ever see the Jack Benny show? Oh, yeah. And you know that whenever Jack Benny went into an airport or a post office or a railway station, there was always a guy behind the counter whose back was turned. And Jack Benny would step up to him and you can say it. You can say, no, what? No, you give the Jack Benny line. You think I'm going to give you Frank Nelson's line? Jack Benny's line is, oh, mister. No, you're supposed to say, oh, mister. Oh, mister. Yes. That's Frank Nelson. Now, to be serious, what I want to do for you today, I'm going to start with one thing and then I'm going to go to another thing, and if everything works, this will go very smoothly. I did a whole bunch of work on MidiMaster, as some of you know, in the last year. And the aim of it was twofold. First, to make a better version of MidiMaster to start with. And second, to make a version of MidiMaster that can take advantage of the AMS card. The version that I'm using here today is the one that takes advantage of the AMS card and has a whole bunch of other improvements as well. And among those improvements, if you have an AMS card, anybody ever used MidiMaster knows that if you want to use the album feature, you had to plug in a mini memory to use album. If you have an AMS and you have this new AMS version of MidiMaster, that's no longer necessary. So, if this will work correctly the first time, what I have in here is an editor assembler cartridge, okay, not a MIDI memory. Why did that not work?
You needed a period after the one, did you not?
Seeing what I was doing.
If it worked the first time, Bruce, it wouldn't be an official TI demo.
I
Yeah.
don't think it'd be an official.
Wouldn't be one of my demos if it worked the first time.
I've never seen
So what you're going to see here on the screen, if it works the first time, now, is MIDI album. Okay, so we are in MIDI album. We do not have a mini memory card. We are working MIDI album out of the AMS memory. Okay, now, we made a lot of changes in MidiMaster. A whole bunch of them. There were pieces of music that my partner, the musician, this is Dolores P. Works. She is our musician. I don't do the musical thing. Somebody tell Bob Petter, you tell Bob Petter, that, you know, he wrote a thing in his newsletter that said he envies me for my musical capability. Well, I don't have any. I have a musician in the family. I don't do the music.
He probably envies you for that.
But there were pieces of music that she was trying to do, and she said, these simply cannot be done on MidiMaster. They can't be done. Because in MidiMaster, among other things, you have to make something, either a quarter note, an eighth note, a 16th note, and so on, so on, so on. And some of these things, there was a place in there where there were 31 notes in the place of a half note. And you had to divide a half note up into 31 pieces and put notes in there. Couldn't do that. Well, what I gave her is something called numeric duration, which means that a quarter note is 48 ticks. So she can put a quarter note into the MidiMaster as a cue for quarter, or she can put 048. But the beauty of that is if she only wants it to run 047 or 046, she can do that. And then put a 2-tick rest after that. So that she now has complete freedom to operate in any kind of timing that she needs in 48ths of a quarter note. Okay? Gave her much more flexibility, and therefore these odd things like, was it 15 or 31? How many notes?
I know. I remember that there was like a half note divided by half.
Well, yeah, it's in other words, it's not a normal amount of time, amount of notes you would put in a half note, okay, in the space of a half note. Now, I have, if I can get this to work, we have on here a piece of music of which I'm only going to play one movement. There are two movements. There's the one starting with an A, and the one starting with a BA. The BA is the second movement, the AA is the first movement. I'm only going to play one of those for now, because we got a whole bunch of stuff to do today. If I have time, I'll play the rest at the end. But this is one of those pieces of music that was impossible to do. It was also impossible to do without AMS, because you see there are 1, 2, 3 is the normal number of files that would be in a MidiMaster memory image. But this has G, E, and F as well. Okay. So this actually is two groups of the AMS memory that this one movement will fill up. So first I'm going to select that. And then I'm just going to start it playing. Now, you will see that will load A, B, C. When it gets there, C. Then it'll load D. That's going into the second group of the AMS memory. E, F. And then it will look for G, but it won't find G, so it'll know that it's finished. That's how it knows it's done. And then it plays them.
title of that melody.
Now that piece, normally those of you who know us know that normally we do not do anything by composers who have not been dead for at least 75 years.
Yeah, I know.
Because after 75 years after they die, Ascap forgets all about them.
Yeah.
Okay?
Public-
Ascap has not forgotten this guy. This is Claude Bowling.
Oh,
It is a suite for piano, flute, string bass, and drums. Okay? Written by Claude Bowling for his friend Jean-Pierre Rampal to play the flute part. You may have heard his name. But he's still alive, and we're not selling this. Okay? We're using this as a demonstration piece. We're not selling this piece. So that we don't have to worry about how much better lawyers Ascap can afford than we can. Okay. Now that is the play. Now, what you may not have noticed, but I know you saw at the beginning that it loaded 6 files into memory. It loaded them into 2 different groups of the AMS. And right in the middle while it was playing that, it switched. You didn't hear it, but it switched groups right in the middle of that, just kept right on playing. Now, when I first was working on this, I wasn't sure whether it would switch fast enough that you could do it right in the middle of a piece of music and not notice it. But
This is great because I have so many scores of music that require that much memory.
Right.
We're doing it on MIDI. And with all the, see, there were, at least 10 tracks
Yep.
on this.
Okay. A lot of tracks. Because the cymbal notes and the drum notes and the other things, they have to be playing at the same time. This used all the tricks. Okay, all the tricks. This particular piece of music used all the tricks, including the ability to play notes that aren't on this keyboard. It plays some notes that are down here, where this doesn't have keys, but it plays them anyway.
you go 1 octave above, 1 octave below.
1 octave above and one below. Right. Right. On some keyboards you can actually go more than 1 octave below, but that depends on some of the Yamahas, and some of them you can go actually more than 1 octave down. The Yamaha that we have, you go 1 octave down, and the same on this one.
I've never had tried it, but I got the word.
Well, see, in MidiMaster, the key in MidiMaster is where you would use a 0 for the octave to get this octave. Use a slash in place of that 0, and you're 1 octave down from there. That'll work with the old MidiMaster as well. That isn't something I had. Okay, now, I'm going to cycle this off. Back on. The other thing that has always been lacking in MidiMaster was that if you have a PC and you have some kind of MIDI sequencing software on it, you can hook up both cables from your keyboard, both the in and the goes into and the goes out, okay, to your PC. And if you want to, you can start that sequencer software recording, and what you play here will go into your computer's memory. A very handy feature, which MidiMaster up until now did not have. Now, we did not, a very close look at what we had done in MidiMaster said, no, you're not going to be able to adapt MidiMaster so that within the same program it can do both. So we started with essentially a clean sheet of paper and said, okay, we're going to have a separate program that allows you to start with what's on the keyboard, play it into the computer, and then we'll do things with it after that. Okay? But the first thing was to get it from there into there, in the memory. All right, now, Richard Bell has brought his son Kevin. Did I get the name right? Kevin Bell is going to come up and he's going to actually play something on the keyboard. All right, why don't you come up, Kevin? Somehow I got into editor when I didn't want to get into editor. Okay. The name of this program is called PlayOne. Okay, it's a program. It has a PlayOne and a PlayTwo. But all the guts of it is in PlayOne. PlayTwo is just utilities that it dumps into the low memory to support the rest of it. Okay, there it is. And the first, now, where's Charlie? Where's somebody? The monitor volume, can I just crank that up? Because I couldn't hear anything on this monitor. Is it this one right here? Which one? That. Okay, I just want to bring that up some.
Careful, you might blow it away.
Before he plays, I'm going to illustrate something, so I'm going to ask you to just hold off for a second while I show him one other thing. When you go to PlayIn, there's a delay factor, which determines how fast things happen. How long a quarter note takes, for example, is determined by this number. Now, for the moment, we're just going to leave that as its default setting, 7/5. The time signature, if you want to play in 3/4 time, you put 3/4 in there. If you want to play in 2/4, you put 2/4 in there, and so on. Metronome. Now, this is why I just asked Charlie to turn up the monitor speaker, because through the monitor speaker, it will create a sound. We hooked up? Okay.
Yeah. No,
It'll create a sound so to pace you while you're playing. And if you're in 4/4, for example, it will go tick, 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 tick. In 2/4, it will go tick, 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 tick. There's one accent. In other words, the first one's accent. I'm going to show you that in just a second if this works correctly. Metronome, but you can turn that off. If you don't want to listen to that ticking while you're playing, you can turn that off. Echo service. Now, friend here has a Yamaha. We have a Yamaha too, and in one of its modes of operation, you play on the keyboard into the computer, you won't hear what you're playing. Because it's sending it out the MIDI port, but it's not sending it to its own sound generator.
Most fellows need to hear that.
So, if you have that situation, you say, why here? And the TI, when it gets those bytes from the Yamaha, will immediately send them back out the other port. And you'll hear what you're playing.
That's great.
That's only one mode of operation. In the other mode of operation, no, you'll hear what you're playing without the echo service.
You don't hear the metronome on the recording.
I beg your
You
pardon?
don't hear the metronome on the recording.
No. The metronome is just through the speaker here for you to hear. The sound chip makes that. And that doesn't go anywhere else.
Yeah, I have a human metronome right here when I play.
Now, since we have an AMS, now this program is designed to work with or without an AMS. If you did not have an AMS, it wouldn't ask you this question. But we're going to be playing it now. For this first trial, we're not going to play anything at all. Okay, and I'm going to show you a feature of the program. Okay. Okay. Hear the metronome? Okay. Barely. Okay. But it will keep doing that for 5 measures. And if it doesn't get anything from the keyboard in those 5 measures, it will say, hey, nobody's playing anything, and it'll just quit and go back. Okay? Now.
We guarantee you it's louder on your own system.
All right. Now, when we tried this just a little while ago, there was something not working right, and we didn't get it the first time. So if we don't get it the first time, please stand by, and we'll get it. Except for the keyboard, everything else here, it's not my own stuff. So we're going to try a PlayIn, and I'll give you a downbeat when we're all set. We'll answer all the prompts with their defaults. Okay, and now go. Okay, now. When he stops playing, this waits 2 measures to see if he's really finished. So the metronome kept on ticking for 2 full measures, and that's why you didn't see anything happen on the screen. But at the end of those 2 full measures, it said, oh, he's not played anything for 2 measures, therefore I'm finished. But then it asked for more. Now, the reason it asked for more, suppose he was playing a concerto solo piece or something, and I know I'm not going to do that. But suppose it was something that was, was a big long thing. He could play the first part of that and then stop anywhere he wants. And then he could either say more right now and then go on and play the next part, or he could stop, get out of this, which is what you do by pressing any key other than this, and he could come back to it in a little while and play the next part of it in. And it would go into the next group of memory. So it's in a separate part of memory of the AMS, and therefore he doesn't have to worry about it. It won't corrupt what he just finished playing in. Play back. It says start with group 1. Okay, now there are, in this particular AMS, there are 256K of memory. 240 of that is being used for storing music in this program. And so that means there's 10 groups of 24K that we can play music into. Can't play into more than one and have it just switch over to the next one. What you play has to be confined to a group of 24K, and then you stop and then you can play some more. Let's first see if we got it in memory and if it'll play back. Okay, start with group 1, which is the only one we use. It says through group 1. If he had used group 2, it would say through group 2 as a default up here. It knows what groups he played into. Delay factor 750, which is just for heckler. Now, just to show you that we can really do this, okay, we're going to go into group 2 of the memory with all the same, except that you see, since the machine, the computer knows that he already played something into group 1, so it defaults to group 2 here. If we told this to try group 11, it wouldn't let us do that. It knows that we only have 10 groups. So when this program starts up, it determines whether or not you have an AMS and how big. On Richard Bell's system back there, it says 42 groups because he's got a 1 meg memory. Okay? All right, now I'll give you a, okay, go. Now, again, you see it waited until now. However, when I play this back, I can start at group 2. So it won't play the first one. It'll only play second. Okay, we could, I'm not going to ask you to do it again, but we could repeat this process and do it 6 more times. Take as many cases as we like, if you will. Use the different groups of memory, and then look at them later, and listen to them and say, I like that one better than this one, and so on.
When you make an error, can you go into it and change it?
Later. I'll get to that in a minute, because it gets complicated. No, you can't edit what's in memory directly with this program. No. You can play it again until you're happy with it. You can do that. But you can't go in and change what's in memory directly. No. Now, I did bring, well, I'll tell you what, I'll put something in. What do you call that? What is that called? I don't know. Okay, we're going to call this I don't know. Yeah, I've heard it played too, but I don't know what it's called either. Okay, so, but you see, we can save what he just played. In the mood. In the mood. In the mood. Okay, we'll call it in the mood. We can save that onto disk as a memory image file, just like it was. Okay? You want me to save the first one or the second one? Second? Okay. Okay, we're going to call it Mood A. Just for the heck of it. Okay? So we're going to save Mood A into memory. That's the second time you tried it. Okay? Now, to prove to you that we really did what I just said we really did, I'm going to shut down, fire up again, okay, so you know I don't really have it, I'm not depending on it still being there in the AMS memory. We are really doing it. And we have number 4, load image. Start. 1. Start with group 1. All right, I forget what the prompts are. See, when I'm not looking up there. Mood A. And it will load Mood A, and it will tell us it's loading that into group 1, and now it's done. Okay? Now, it really worked. I don't have any way of stopping it, he knows. I don't have any way of stopping this once I started playing, because it's not looking at this.
There's that on-off switch.
Yeah, the on-off switch is very effective, yeah. The on-off one. Okay. But, you see, this is the proof that it does work. And we can save something to disk, comes back, plays exactly the way it was played to start with. How much time do I have, Charlie?
You've got another 27 minutes.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. I'm great. I hadn't timed this, so. Usually it doesn't do any good to do it anyway. Okay. Okay, there is a number 5 on here that answers your question. Okay, it says create SNMP. Now, I'm not going to actually do it right now because it takes a little, well, it would do it fairly quickly, but just for the sake of, I'll do it. As long as it'll take more time to talk about it than to show it to you. We have in the memory what he played. Now, the way it stores in the memory is something that you may find amusing. MidiMaster has its own way of storing things in memory. So if you have 8 tracks, MidiMaster sets aside memory in blocks of 8 tracks, 8 tracks, 8 tracks, 8 tracks. And if some of them are silent for most of the piece, too bad. Okay, this does not work that way. when he hits the key down, the signal comes over here, and the metronome, which is always running, whether you're listening to it or not, doesn't care whether you're listening. The metronome is always running, so it knows the beat, the measure, and the tick. Beat, measure, and tick. Tick being 1/48 of a quarter note. So it knows what time he hit that key. In beat, in measure, beat, and tick. And it stores 3 bytes. Measure, beat, and tick. And then it stores the note he just hit and the velocity byte, which tells how hard he hit it. Now, on a lot of keyboards, that'll always be 64 or it'll always be 90 because they're not touch sensitive. On this one, you can have it either way. You can have that on or off. So you can either it'll be how hard did you hit it, or it'll be a standard 90. Doesn't matter. But that gets stored. So when he presses a key down, 5 bytes go into memory. When he lets the key go, 5 bytes go into memory, measure, beat, tick, note, and a 0, which says, oh, he finished this note now. That's a 0. 0 for volume. So, in memory, you have these groups of 5 bytes. 5 bytes, 5 bytes, 5 bytes, 5 bytes, 5 bytes. And if he has a note down and then he hits another note while he's got that one still held down, that's fine, because those bytes go in and they get put into memory, and if they're at a slightly different time, and it doesn't care, it just keeps recording whatever it gets. There's a point to all this which I'm trying to get around to, and that is that the amount of stuff you can put in memory is only determined by how many notes there are in that piece. If he played that piece real slow, da, 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 wouldn't matter. If he played it real fast, da, 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 wouldn't matter. It takes the same amount of memory, because it's the total number of notes that are in that piece that determines how much memory it takes up. Now, Richard's wife has played in some things that took. Did any of them overflow the memory? I don't think so. They all fit in a 24K block. Right. He's put in some Chopin preludes, which are fairly big pieces of music, but they fit in one 24K block. Now, if you exceed the 24K block, if you run out, this will tell you on the screen you've run it out of that 24, you've run it out of memory. And you can't save that once you've done that. You have to go figure out, okay, I'm only going to play it up to a certain note, and then I'm going to switch groups and play the rest of it into another group. Now, if it's split that way, it won't affect anything. When you play it back, it'll play what's in the first group, and it'll switch over and play what's in the second group immediately thereafter without pause. You won't know what's in what group. When we go to save as a create SNMP, it asks us what groups we want to save. Okay, so we're just going to start with group 1, through group 1, and we give it a name. I'm just going to call it in mood. Okay, I mean, I called the other thing mood A, the memory image, so this is called in mood. Now it asks me for a title, and I have to surround this title with quotes. Okay, so that's what goes in that first line of the MIDIMaster file, and then I hit enter, and it will create. It is now creating an SNMP source file out of what he played. Okay? Now, it determines on its own how many tracks it needs, because the program figures out how many notes were overlapped at any given time. And whatever the maximum number of notes were overlapped at one time is how many tracks it makes. And it automatically does that without human intervention, and it just clicks. It's stuck. So, well, we tried. Richard can tell you that it does work because he's done it, and I've done it, and you play stuff in, and Anyway, making this kind of file out of it, then you have a source file that you can use back into MIDIMaster. And you can annotate it, and you can
say I want to
change the durations of notes, you can delete rests, you can put more rests in, you can do whatever the heck you want.
or you want to add a instrument or two. You can add
Now, adding an instrument or two is not a trivial matter.
I know. But you mean it's difficult with this?
I mean it would be very difficult. I didn't say not possible, I said difficult.
I'm not talking about playing it in.
I know exactly what you mean. You mean on the memory image file. After you've tried it, you tell me how easy it is.
Okay.
Because I haven't tried. The one thing of that is that you've got to change the number of tracks up by one if you're going to add an instrument. And then, everywhere that instrument isn't playing, you got to get the right number of rests in.
I've typed in a lot of it.
Well, I'm just telling so when I say it's not a trivial matter, that's what I mean by it's not a trivial matter. It's not undoable, but not trivial.
And you miss something, not after you haven't been into a piece very long, and you go to play it back, all at once it gets everything out of time.
Right. You get out of what we call an out of sync condition, because somewhere in there's a rest that needs to be put in or taken out. Yeah, I know. Richard knows that too. He's had that kind of struggle. And so this is my partner here. Okay. Now, like I say, I don't know whether we actually have that file on the disk or not, or whether it quit, it crashed and then it stopped making the file. It would. But it makes a file, and it puts measure markers in there according to its own metronome. So you'll have an M00 for the first measure, and M01, M0. It puts little markers in with an asterisk.
That's great.
And at the end of each measure, it takes all the voices that were used, all the tracks, and adds rests for those that weren't being played in that measure. And so you may find like you have a rest at the beginning for track 1 and track 2, and then some notes for track 1 and track 2, and at the end you may have tracks 3, 4, and 5, each with 192 ticks of rest. But that's what it's supposed to do, because those didn't play in that whole measure. Okay, anybody else? Yeah.
How do you edit the SNMP file?
You can now. Boy, does he ask good questions. He asked good questions, albeit that he kept using Frank Nelson's line when I told him to use Jack Benny's line. I'm not forgetting that, Tom. But how do you edit the SNMP is a good question. Now, my preference to edit the SNMP, it's a DB80 text file. My preference is to use FunnelWeb's program editor. Not the text editor, the program editor. That's my preference. Because that way, I don't have to worry about I make one wrong keystroke and 16 notes word wrap into one line, which is illegal in SNMP. That's why I use the program editor. Okay. You can also use TI's program editor that came with the editor assembler package. But one of the last things I did, which Richard ran into this because he had TI Writer, and he tried to edit with TI Writer. And he ran into this word wrapped a whole bunch of stuff into one line. And he said, help, what did I do?
And then you go down and you separate it back.
Well, this program, that takes a long time. You can get back out of that, but it takes a long time. Now, what I did is I had this program, when it's creating the file, put a carriage return at the end of each line. So that if you go into edit mode and you're in TI Writer or something, you insert something into a line and then you redo the thing to come out of that, Control 2, it finds that carriage return so it doesn't do anything to any lines beyond that. Okay?
That's the way I finally solved it with TI as well, Funnel Writer.
Right, same idea. But this, when it makes that file, it puts a carriage return at the end. Now, in the earlier versions, it didn't put a carriage return at the end of the first line. the line that has that title in it, but it does that now too. So it now has everything is in that title line, including a character.
Do you have to delete your carriage returns when you do, or just leave?
No, MidiMaster will handle it just like that. MidiMaster won't care.
I always deleted them, didn't know if I had to or not.
Don't have to. Don't have to. MidiMaster will ignore them.
Does it work with grandparents, SCSI drives?
To the best of my knowledge and belief, I don't have one.
Does it?
In other words, if you were going to do something with one of these files and you typed in a path name, now, Luke, did you bring your SCSI?
Yeah.
We can try this because this gentleman has a SCSI system with him. So we can take, like, this file that we just created and take it over to his system and see if we can save that file onto his SCSI.
And how much music would you get on double-sided disc?
Hold on.
You're saying, the way I understand, you would count the number of notes on the...
Well, what it amounts to is each note for the hitting and releasing of a note is 10 bucks. So if you wanted to, you could take the sheet music and count and say this has 4,000 notes, therefore it'll take 40,000 bytes, therefore I can't do in 1/24 clock.
And of course, if you put in 16 tracks, it takes twice as much as 8.
Well, now, that's another issue that you just brought up, which I'm not, at the moment, I'm not going to get into the details of that. But the way this stores in memory, it is very possible for you to play something in, be able to play it back from one group of memory, convert it to SNMP, take it into MidiMaster, and because of the entirely different way that MidiMaster uses the memory, it would run out of memory in MidiMaster, and you'd have to split it into more than one thing. That is a very easy to happen scenario, because this uses a much more efficient. Now, I didn't do that just to be efficient. I did that so that this thing's loop that's running around there would be able to get back there looking for that key in time all the time and not have you playing notes in that it misses.
One thing I hope you had, and that is where music often has repeats in it, and you go back to it and play forward, it doesn't have that.
No, you still, no, I did not get to that yet. I didn't get to a da capo or dal signo yet. It's something that I would like to have in MidiMaster. So in MidiMaster, you would put in a section and say, put something that says, okay, go back to page 3 and play from there.
Well, back to mark.
Letter 8, right, back to a mark, and play that again. I don't know whether I will ever be able to do that with MidiMaster, because MidiMaster in the AMS version is almost chock-a-block. Almost every byte of low memory has already been used. So if I'm going to add anything, first of all I have to decide which one thing I'm going to add, and that's a candidate. But if that candidate won't fit in the remaining memory, and some other one will, then the other one would be what would get done. Yeah? So I can't say, I'm not going to say version 3 will be out next week. I'm not Mike. Mike's not here. No, I can't tell you that I will ever add any of those to what's already there, because it's very close to being out of low memory, because all of MidiMaster fits in low memory, and it's almost out.
Since
This thing, I can add some more features to. I got more room on PlayIn. I can add more things to it.
Since most music does have where you go back and play something
Yeah,
over.
it has the compos and del signos. Yeah, almost all of it does. I know. And she suffered with that too. She suffers with that a lot more than I do, because she's the one that has to make additional files and replicate files. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Does it handle lyrics too?
Who?
No.
If there was a microphone
How
on
this
it,
thing is back.
No, it's musical instrument.
No, one thing at that.
All it's recording is measure, beat, ticks, and 1 byte for note number. 0, 1 through 7F. Now, if you can sing in hexadecimal, maybe. People say I can talk in hexadecimal, but I never sing in hexadecimal. And then 1 more byte, which is 0 through 7F. So 2 bytes. And that's not enough to handle singing.
If you want that feature, you're going to have to pay a bunch for it.
Well, you're talking about the advanced PCs, I know. You can hook up a microphone and you can talk on the internet and people can hear you at the other end and all that, but no. I mean, I'm not going to use the word impossible, but I'm going to use the word impractical within this kind of system. There's a little, what was that thing called? What was that little thing that the guy in Italy made?
DigiSynth.
DigiSynth. Whereby you can take something on a cassette tape and plug it into the cassette port of your TI. And it would take something in and make out of that something that would play through the TI sound chip and recreate a voice. I've never played, I've tested it, I know that it works.
It was not really high fidelity.
No, it's extremely low fidelity, but it works. It does,
It does work, yes.
It works. You would not want to sing, Maria Callas would not be pleased with what it did to her voice. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
When you were creating the SNF file,
Right.
and you said it's hung up.
Well, it just stopped, and it wasn't supposed to do that.
Okay, so what would happen like if I sat there and watched it for an hour and a half?
The menu
that
would come back.
Oh, okay, good.
The menu comes back. It would be away from you for 3-4 minutes. Now, with what he played in, it would be away from you for maybe 15-20 seconds, and if it
Okay.
didn't come back to the memory,
Okay.
you'd know that something had gone awry.
So an hour is too long to...
Now, if it had been a disk error or something like that, it would have been an error trap and it would have recorded on the screen. So there was some kind of an internal, probably a hardware crash that is not part of the recording process. All right. Thank you all. Now, I assume I've used up all my time, or very nearly.
You got about 9 minutes.
9 minutes, okay, 9 minutes, I will put something to entertain you for the next 9 minutes.
Good, you haven't told us about availability of this product and where...
Well, the PlayIn, I'll tell you, the PlayIn is available from me for $5. What do I want to do? What I want. The PlayIn is available for me for $5. Now, if you want to get started in MidiMaster and you don't have MidiMaster, Mr. Bell back here has the original MidiMaster, the special cable, and my update, which he will sell you as a package. So you can have nothing and get started. Then you gotta go out and buy one anytime. But you can start from 0 with Mr. Bell, and he'll give you the update and everything with that. If you already have MidiMaster and you just need the update, come and see me. If the AMS version is $5, the non-AMS is $1. Okay? All right. I'm gonna... I'm going to play the other movement of that bowling for you, so something that just, and then you can all... Now, my partner is going to do a concert in here with real music and MIDI together. some very interesting music. Now, this is not Claude Bowling she's going to be playing. This is the kind that they've been dead for a lot more than 75 years. You got those programs? Yeah, okay. She's going to give you a program sheet when you're in here for her concert that tells you what all is on her concert. Oh, I can plug this. Is that turned on?
Somebody can pass it now.
Is that amplifier turned on?
No. No, not turning on because you have to hold the plug on the back.
Yeah, all right. Wait, can you plug that in? I can't see what I'm doing. Plug that in the right one and then turn it. You know what? It works a whole lot better if this is turned on. Okay, this is the second movement.